Have you ever wondered if spiritual awakening means you stop feeling pain completely? Have you ever looked at someone calm and thought they must be immune to suffering? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are stepping into a deceptively simple question that can change the way you live every single day. Do you still feel pain? It sounds like a yes or no question, but it is really a doorway into something deeper. It is a doorway into the difference between pain and suffering, the difference between feeling and identity, the difference between being hurt and being destroyed by hurt. Two main ideas will carry this whole conversation. First, pain is part of being human. If you have a body, a heart, a memory, and people you care about, pain will visit you. The question is not whether pain shows up. The question is what happens next. Second, what most of us call pain is often a mixture. There is the original feeling, and then there is the mind that wraps the feeling in stories. Shame, fear, blame, and endless replay. Awakening is not about deleting emotion. Awakening is about not being possessed by the story that follows emotion. Let me tell you a story, because the most honest way to explore this is not to speak like a textbook. It is to speak like someone who has watched real people go through real storms and either collapse into bitterness or rise into clarity. Imagine a moment. A public conversation. A well-known actor sits across from a teacher known for calm presence. Cameras are on. People expect something polished, but then a human question slips out. The kind of question that sounds casual but comes from a place most people hide. Do you still feel pain? The room feels quiet in a different way, because everyone knows what is underneath that question. The question is not only about the teacher. It is about the person asking. It is about the fear behind the curiosity. It is about the secret hope. Please tell me there is a way out. Please tell me I can become someone who cannot be hurt. If you have ever asked a similar question, you already understand the emotional weight of it, because pain is not only physical. Pain is the sting of rejection. Pain is the ache of grief. Pain is the bruise of betrayal. Pain is the tightness of anxiety. Pain is the loneliness that appears even in a crowded room. Pain is the feeling that you are not enough. Pain is the fear that time is moving too fast. So when someone asks, "Do you still feel pain?" what they are really asking is there a way to be free? Now let us walk into the answer. Not as a quote, but as a lived understanding. Yes, a mature person still feels pain, but the pain is no longer used as proof of a tragic identity. The pain is felt, recognized, allowed to move, and then released rather than stored as a permanent scar. The difference is not that the enlightened person becomes numb. The difference is that the enlightened person does not turn pain into a home. Let me bring this down to earth with a story. There was a man named Theo. Theo was known among friends as calm. Not quiet from fear, calm from steadiness. People went to Theo when their lives were messy, because Theo had a way of listening without panic. He did not judge quickly. He did not offer dramatic advice. He would simply sit, breathe, and say something simple that made people feel like they could survive. One day, Theo's younger sister called him crying. Their mother had been diagnosed with something serious. The details are not important here. What matters is what happened inside Theo. When he heard the news, he felt a drop in his stomach. He felt a wave of fear. He felt a sharpness in his chest like the air turned cold. His hands trembled slightly. He felt pain. Now here is where most people misunderstand calmness. From the outside, Theo still sounded steady on the phone. He told his sister he would come. He told her to breathe. He told her they would handle the next steps. He sounded like a rock. But inside, the pain was real. Later, sitting alone in his car, Theo felt tears come. He did not fight them. He let them fall. He felt grief rising in waves. He did not say, "I should not feel this." He did not shame himself for crying. He did not perform strength for an imaginary audience. He simply allowed the body to express the truth of love. Because grief is not weakness. Grief is love with nowhere to go. Then Theo did something that reveals the real practice. He noticed the mind trying to add a second layer. The mind said, "This should not be happening." The mind said, "Life is unfair." The mind said, "I cannot handle this." The mind said, "What if everything falls apart?" The mind said, "I will be broken." Theo noticed those thoughts and did not follow them. He returned to the breath. He returned to the present. He said quietly, "Pain is here. Fear is here. Love is here. And I am still here." This is the difference. Pain is a visitor. Suffering is when you build a house for the visitor and call it your identity. Now, you might be thinking, that sounds nice. But what about when pain is intense? What about betrayal? What about humiliation? What about panic attacks? What about the kind of pain that feels like it is ripping your life apart? Let us go there too. Because avoiding that reality would be dishonest. There was a woman named Marisol. She discovered her partner had been lying for months. Not just small lie. A double life kind of lying. When she found out, she felt something collapse inside her. It was not only heartbreak. It was reality shock. The world she thought she lived in was not the world that existed. In the first week, Marisol barely ate. She barely slept. She kept replaying conversation, reading old messages, searching for signs she missed, punishing herself with questions she could not answer. Why was I not enough? Was it my fault? Was everything fake? How could I be so blind? Will I ever trust again? She was not only in pain, she was drowning in story. A friend told her about a practice. Not a magic trick. A practice. Sit for 5 minutes. Feel the sensations in your body. Name them without commentary. Marisol tried. She sat on the floor. She felt a tight band in her chest. She felt heat in her face. She felt trembling in her legs. She felt nausea in her stomach. Her mind tried to attach meaning to every sensation. This tightness means I am destroyed. This nausea means I will never recover. But she practiced naming without meaning. Heat, trembling, nausea, tears. This sounds small, but it is huge, because it separates the raw experience from the mind story. And the story is where suffering multiplies. Over days, Marisol kept practicing. She also added one more step. When the mind produced a cruel sentence like "I am unlovable," she would ask, "Is that a fact or a thought?" It was a thought. A painful thought. Yes, but still a thought. This practice did not remove pain instantly, but it prevented pain from becoming a permanent identity. Eventually Marisol could say something like this: "What happened hurt. I feel grief. I feel anger. I feel fear. But I am not those feelings. I am the awareness that can hold those feelings." This is the doorway. When you discover you can hold pain without becoming pain, you stop being terrified of feeling. Now let us return to the question again, because now it becomes clearer. Do you still feel pain? Yes. But the relationship with pain changes. Pain becomes information, not a verdict. Pain becomes weather, not a prison. Pain becomes a wave, not a permanent ocean. Now, I want to speak to the part of you that might secretly resist this, because many people resist presence. They think presence means they will become passive. They think if they do not obsess, they will not protect themselves. They think if they do not rehearse worst-case scenarios, they will be unprepared. They think if they forgive internally, the other person wins. That is the mind trying to keep control through tension. But tension is not control. Tension is just suffering disguised as effort. Presence does not mean you do nothing. Presence means you act from clarity, not from panic. Theo still went to the hospital. He still made calls. He still supported his family. Marisol still set boundaries. She still ended contact where needed. She still rebuilt her life. They did not become passive. They became clean. Clean action is powerful because it does not leave poison behind. Now let us talk about something deeper that many spiritual teachers point to in different language. There is the pain body, the accumulated emotional residue of the past stored in the nervous system. Old grief, old shame, old anger, old fear, old rejection. Even if you do not think about it, it can be triggered by a tone of voice, a familiar situation, a certain look. When it is triggered, it can feel like the present moment is unbearable. But sometimes, it is the past echoing through the present. So when you ask, do you still feel pain? Part of the answer is yes. And sometimes the pain is not only about what is happening now. Sometimes it is an old wound being touched. Awakening is partly learning to recognize this. You feel a reaction, and instead of immediately blaming the other person, you ask, what inside me is being activated? This does not mean the other person is innocent. It means you stop outsourcing your inner world. Because here is the hard truth. If you blame the world for every pain, you remain powerless. If you take responsibility for your inner relationship with pain, you become free, even while life is still life. Now I want to connect this to karma, because karma is not just a mystical word. It is a description of cause and effect, including inner cause and effect. If you respond to pain with resentment, resentment becomes your habit. If you respond to pain with numbness, numbness becomes your habit. If you respond to pain with awareness, awareness becomes your habit. If you respond to pain with cruelty, cruelty becomes your habit. If you respond to pain with honesty and boundaries, honesty and boundaries become your path. Your response becomes your destiny. That is karma as lived experience. Now, let me tell you about a young man named Aaron. Aaron was the type who appeared strong, but inside he was terrified of feeling pain. He learned early that emotions made him look weak. So he built a personality around jokes, toughness, and never needing anyone. Then he experienced a breakup that hit him hard. He acted like he did not care. He posted photos like he was fine. He told friends it was nothing. But at night he could not sleep. His body carried pain anyway. So the question became, would he meet the pain consciously? Or would he carry it unconsciously and let it poison his future? Aaron started watching talks about presence. He heard the phrase, feel what you feel without naming yourself by it. At first he thought it was nonsense. Then one night his chest felt tightened. He tried something. He sat on the floor, put his hand on his chest, and stayed with the sensation without escaping into his phone. The tightness rose. Tears came. He felt embarrassed even though he was alone. Then something surprising happened. After the tears, there was relief. He realized he had been running from pain for years. But pain is faster than you. The only way out is through. This is a mature answer to the question. Yes, pain still happens. But you stop fearing it. You stop making it a monster. You stop building your whole life around avoiding it. Now, I want to address the biggest misunderstanding that comes up when people hear this. They think the goal is to never feel pain. But the real goal is to never abandon yourself when pain appears. Because self-abandonment is the real suffering. Self-abandonment looks like this. You betray your values to avoid discomfort. You tolerate disrespect to avoid loneliness. You stay silent to avoid conflict. You chase approval to avoid rejection. You harm others to avoid shame. When you stop abandoning yourself, your life becomes steadier. Not because life becomes gentle, but because you become rooted. Rooted people still feel wind. They just do not get uprooted by every gust. Now I want to speak in the simplest language possible, because this is what most viewers actually need. Pain is part of love. If you love someone, you can lose them. If you love something, it can change. If you live in a body, the body can hurt. If you live in time, time will take things. So the question is not, how do I eliminate pain? The question is, how do I meet pain with wisdom? Wisdom looks like this. You feel the emotion without turning it into identity. You acknowledge reality without adding mental war. You take action where action is needed. You rest where rest is needed. You speak truth without cruelty. You hold compassion without surrendering boundaries. This is the middle path. Now let me bring us back to that public moment again, because it helps to imagine what a true answer feels like in the room. Someone asks, "Do you still feel pain?" A wise person might smile gently and say something like, "Yes, sometimes. But the pain does not take me over. It comes and it goes." The suffering comes when the mind resists what is, or when the mind makes the pain into a story of me. And that is the real gift. The gift is not numbness. The gift is space. Space between feeling and reaction. Space between emotion and identity. Space between what happens and what it means. That space is freedom. Now, I want to share a final reflection that might land close to home. If you are watching this while going through something painful, you might be impatient with spiritual talk. You might want a quick fix. You might want the pain gone. I get it, but here is what I want you to try. Just once, because it can shift everything. When pain rises, do not ask, "How do I stop it?" Ask, "Can I stay present for 10 breaths?" 10 breaths. During those breaths, feel the body. Name the sensation. Let the mind shout, but do not follow it. Return to the breath. After 10 breaths, choose one clean action. Drink water. Text a trusted friend. Go outside for 5 minutes. Write down the facts. Set a boundary. Rest. This is how you build a new relationship with pain. Not in one heroic moment, but in small, consistent moments. And over time, something changes. You still feel pain, but you no longer fear pain. And what you do not fear cannot control you. Now I want to invite you to share your thoughts. When you feel emotional pain, what is hardest for you? The feeling itself, the story your mind tells, or the fear that the feeling will never end? Leave a comment if you feel comfortable. Your words might help someone else feel less alone. And you might also discover clarity just by naming what you carry. If this video helped you, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share your thoughts in the comments so more people can find it. And if you want to support the channel in a deeper way, consider joining the membership so we can keep creating long-form conversations that turn confusion into clarity and pain into wisdom. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Feel what you feel, but do not abandon yourself inside it. Keep your heart open. Keep your boundaries clean. And I will see you in the next video. Source title: Lost My Mom explains at H. Guru Mom lost sad my utmost for his highest losing people falling apart. Batch article 23. Generated time 2026 1/18/12/02. New video title: When you lose someone you love. How do you keep living without closing your heart? Have you ever felt like one phone call could split your life into before and after? Have you ever been surrounded by people and still felt completely alone because the one person you want is gone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about loss, grief, and the question people whisper in the darkest hours. How do I keep going? How do I live when the person who anchored my world is no longer here? This is not about pretending to be strong. This is not about forcing positivity. This is about learning how to carry love through grief without turning grief into a permanent prison. 2 ideas will guide us. First, grief is not a problem to solve. Grief is love adjusting to absence. It moves in waves, and the waves do not mean you are failing. They mean you are human. Second, the deepest pain of loss often comes from resistance. The mind arguing with reality. The mind replaying what if. The mind bargaining with time. Acceptance does not mean you like what happened. Acceptance means you stop fighting what you cannot change, so you can start healing what you can. Her name was Kayla. She was young when her mother passed. Young enough that the world still felt like it should be fair if you were good. Tyla and her mother had a bond that was not perfect, but it was real. Her mother was the person who answered calls late at night, who remembered small details, who could calm Kayla's nervous system with one sentence. Then her mother was gone. The first days felt unreal. Kayla moved through the house like a ghost. People spoke to her, but their words sounded far away. Food tasted like cardboard. Sleep came in broken pieces. When she did sleep, she woke up expecting to hear her mother's voice, then remembered again. And the remembering felt like being hit. Kayla hated the phrase, "Time heals." It sounded like an insult. She did not want time to erase her mother. She did not want healing if healing meant forgetting. She also hated being told to be strong. Strong for who? Strong for what? Her body felt heavy. Her mind felt foggy. Her chest felt like it had a stone inside it. One evening, Kayla sat on the floor with her mother's scarf in her hands and whispered, "What am I supposed to do now?" And that is where the real journey begins. Because grief is not just sadness. Grief is also an identity crisis. When you lose someone, you lose a part of who you were with them. You lose a role. You lose a rhythm. You lose a sense of safety. Kayla did not only miss her mother. She missed the version of herself who felt held.